Welcome to another episode of Junior Achievement of South Florida's Recipe for Success. Just as there are no two recipes that contain the exact same ingredients or measurements, there are no two success stories exactly the same. Recipe for Success features entrepreneurs, visionary leaders, and innovators of all ages who will share the ingredients that make them successful. Here's your host, Lori Salarulo, President and CEO of Junior Achievement of South Florida.
Hey everyone, and welcome to today's episode of JA's Recipe for Success. Welcome to my home. Welcome to my kitchen. I am so thrilled about doing this show. As you know, we feature leaders and entrepreneurs and just amazing community people who have so much to share with us and teaching us and inspiring us through their ingredients to success. And so today is no different. We have a very influential amazing leader in the world of communications and government affairs. And our guest today is Carla Nelson Thatcher. She is the VP of Corporate Communications, Government and Public Affairs with Hotwire Communications, Inc. And might I add, the winner of 12 Emmy Awards. So I definitely want to hear a little bit more about that. So please help me welcome Carla. How are you?
I am well. Welcome to the back bedroom of my condo, or AKA my office, for the past 4 months and counting.
So is that a real background or is that a virtual background?
This actually is a real background. I have a virtual background. In fact, that's one of the exciting things about being able to pivot a communications company long before this COVID was a thing. We had created professional backgrounds, and when I'm using them, I often get asked, "Hey, is that your new office? Did you guys redecorate?" But no, this is actually my back bedroom.
Well, it's beautiful. Thank you for welcoming us into your home. And I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. We use these shows as a way of, number one, of course, putting it out to the broader audience about leadership and entrepreneurship, because that's our core mission, and workforce skills, right? All those ingredients that help make us successful. And our students get to watch them as well. And so we use them as ways to inspire them and share with them that, the path may not always be a straight and narrow and easy path, right? Sometimes there are challenges. And so I want to start, though, for those who may be watching, and share with us a little bit about what Hotwire Communications is all about.
Oh, I sure will. Hotwire Communications is a privately owned and locally based, right here in Broward County is where we keep our headquarters, telecommunications provider of all fiber optic telecommunications provider, one of the very first, in fact, to bring fiber connectivity directly to the home. And here we are in 2020, and it's our 20th year in operation. We service many states across the country, but primarily Florida, Georgia, North and South Carolina, and Pennsylvania. And by a telecommunications company, for those of you that may not be familiar with the term, we provide, video, internet, home security, phone, voice, control, home automation, those services in the residential, commercial, and very excitingly, the government and hospitality space.
So you cover the gamut. Yeah. So I have to imagine you must be doing pretty well right now, because we're all in great need of what you offer.
Well, there's been a lot to consider, but yes, it's a vital resource, right? This ubiquitous amount of bandwidth that people are consuming now more than ever, and not to discount the real inherent human need to stay connected right now, right? Sometimes we think about internet speeds in regards to home learning and working remotely, et cetera. But I think it's not to be put aside, this real need to stay connected. And people are finding new ways to use formats like this, Lori, to touch base with loved ones they haven't seen for 8 to 10 weeks, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we usually film these episodes out of the JA World Kitchen, which is amazing. But again, we've pivoted and we've learned new ways of doing things. And so thank you for the services that you offer. And so I think I even thought that Hotwire was more B2B. So it's interesting to find out that you're also going directly to consumers.
Oh, definitely. So that's how we found it 20 years ago in 2020. We're 20 years in operation. We began the company by identifying our founder, Kristen Johnson, who's still currently our CEO and our fearless leader, day-to-day operations. She kind of discovered that there was this growing need in homeowners and organized gated communities where people didn't think there was. They were thinking of the population of, let's say, retirees or near retirees as these people that wouldn't be large consumers of bandwidth, for instance. But she realized they were, taken from her own experience with her grandmother, who well into her 80s was playing Words with Friends online. She realized that this generation wasn't, the World War II aging generation. These were people who founded startups. They were leaders in the tech industry. These were the people who discovered computer programs and programming in the garages of their homes, and that they were very unlikely to not continue their reliance on bandwidth and have a growing need for it. So that's how she kind of started the company, just knowing that this was the thing. This was the way of the future.
Yeah. So fortunate to work under someone like that and with someone like that. So I mentioned that, one of the things is we love to hear the story, right? I always say it's all about the journey. And the destination is great, hopefully, but it's all about how you get there. And I think that builds, right, our character and tells who we are. Share with us for a moment, how did you end up here, right? How did you end up in corporate communications, government and public affairs? What happened along the way that steered you to this?
Well, it's a funny thing that you ask. We put an awful lot of pressure in this country on people at the age of 16, 17, and 18 to kind of predetermine their entire future as they enter into higher education. And I always kind of giggle that if that pressure was on me back then, I certainly wouldn't be where I am today. But, my major and my background was a combination of media law and crisis communications. I was kind of teetering between wanting to go into the news world and the advertising world. So really broadcast communications is my background. I worked with NBC as a vice president of programming and creative services many, many moons ago. Decided to kind of I was just approaching maybe 30 and decided, hey, there's all of this video production and communication tools and audio visual experience that I have. Is there another way to apply it? And I kind of took a side turn into some marketing, and then cable operators were becoming clients of mine. And the next thing you know, I'm doing compliance and government affairs. And you talk about pivoting and just, I think it's about, Lori, finding what your core essential skills are and your passions, and being able to utilize them in many different ways. So for me, it's always been about telling a story, content, and audio visual enhancement. And then that's kind of led me to this position where I use all of those skills for solutions, bringing solutions to people, whether it's training solutions, communication solutions, what have you.
I love that. And, I think you're right. And when you figure out what your core skills are,
Right.
usually, right, or often they're transferable. And that's what I hear you saying, right? That you found your core skills, put it together with your passion, your why, right? So your passion was, telling the story, it sounds like. And then the why is like providing solutions.
Yes.
I mean, what a perfect mix, right, for success, but not just success, because that's defined so differently for everyone, but what great ingredients, right? Just those three things alone to bring someone to have a fulfilling career.
Right.
Right. And so important.
Yeah. And knowing that whatever path you commit to in the beginning doesn't have to be the be all end all. We're evolving, right? We're growing constantly, and the world is changing. And especially in the technology sphere in which I've landed, it's constantly evolving and innovating, and just feeling comfortable with being able to do that with yourself. Take a couple of risks here and there, not be so ultra conservative, and, not beat yourself up if path A didn't work out, being able to pivot and take the next.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up. I have a 25-year-old daughter. I have two children, but I've my 25-year-old daughter, Samantha. I say to her sometimes, gosh, you're so hard on yourself,
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up. This is an opportunity to learn and grow when we make a mistake or, we hit a roadblock. And so I think our young people need to know that it's okay, right? and not beat yourself up, but look at how you can grow and learn from it. And so I think that's such an important lesson. So I mentioned in the introduction about 12-time Emmy Award winner. Give us a little insight into what that's all about.
So during the course of being in broadcasting, you either are doing branding campaigns, or my absolute favorite thing was being in the public service sphere. And some of those Emmys, and most of those Emmys, were about public service campaigns. We did, one of my favorites was I worked with a toy manufacturing, a private independent small group of girls, actually, who were in their early 20s, some late teens. And they came to me with this concept that they had because there was an alarming rate of young people around them, their friends, their peers, getting pregnant. So they decided that they were going to create a baby doll. They were taking basically unused baby dolls people had finished playing with and discarded, and they were branding them as baby think it overs, and trying to get a program initiated into their school system or any other kind of youth organizations that would have these girls take care of this baby with some restrictions kind of for several months, and kind of gave them a thought and an insight into actions and consequences, good or bad, and kind of had them take a little more control over their body and their choices. And that was one of my favorite things to promote, and it won an award because I think it resonated with people. So yeah, winning an Emmy Award is kind of special and fun, and one of the things that I'm very proud of. And it's been several years because I'm kind of not in that. I'm more of a leader now and not the one actually doing the editing. But boy, it feels good when your peers recognize you for something. Yeah.
You have a shelf with all of these Emmy Awards on it?
A lot. I've moved a lot from city to city. So several of them are broken, and little side story, Emmys are extremely expensive to replace. So, but I do have a few. In fact, they're in my office back at the Hotwire Technology Center off of Cypress Road. And someday I'll be back in there and have them look down at me and inspire me.
That is quite nice. Listen, I think you need a shelf in that bedroom there while we're in.
I keep threatening if this goes on any longer, there's things I have to bring home. But yeah.
Exactly, and that would definitely be one of them because that's quite an accomplishment, right, in your world.
Thank you. Yeah, and in the communications world, it's a special time. Yeah.
Yeah. And, and so, that it's just about recognition, and I see your face lighting up as you talk about that and those accomplishments. So do you have a team of people that you lead over at Hotwire?
That I need at Hotwire?
That you lead?
Oh, yes, I do. And more importantly than the people that I have the pleasure of leading, I have this great source of peers, the people that I collaborate with. And technology and the implementation of technology into people's lives is an extremely collaborative business. And I like to tease that, a leadership team is kind of like being in high school. You've got the jocks and the yearbook folks, and you've got the drama department, and you've got the creatives, and you've got the highly technical IT people, or what we would call the technology nerds, and they all come together on a daily basis to provide something to the consumer. And it's a fun place to work. I mean, they're innovative and smart. And in my 25 years in the industry, they're just amazing. They're the best that I've ever come across. And so that's great. And little note, there's quite a few females in that little group. And that's also fun too. When you look across the table and you see another female there in what used to 20 years ago not be a typically welcoming or opportunistic area for us to work, and they're getting stuff done, and it's pretty great.
Yeah, we do. Us women, we do like to get stuff done. I have to say that. At least all the amazing women I know. But talk a little bit about, so with your team or with your peers. I mean, you talk about, I always say nobody does anything alone. We may be the face of the community or face of the organization, but there is usually an amazing team behind, as you said, of people knowing who has what skills and what strengths to bring to the table to be part of that collaboration. But how important is recognition to running your team and making sure that they know how important their contributions are?
Those are great questions. I mean, who would have thought that we would have been approaching leadership so differently in this day and age than we did, say, 15 years ago. I think great leaders even back then did this application of what they're now calling, they've got a name for it, emotional intelligence. It's about taking a person not just with what they can contribute at work, but their entire makeup of that human being. And, I think the beauty of working the way that we work under Kristen's leadership is that we apply that emotional intelligence. I mean, take this pandemic, for instance. It's affecting all of us, and it's unprecedented, and it's affecting each of us in very different ways. Having that open door where we can go to one another and share what the experiences is. And it's not always bad. I mean, there's some good things that are coming out of this, I believe. But, having that open door where we can share and relying on one another to get the job done. If I'm having a particularly challenging personal day, knowing that I have a team that I can call and say, guys, this is what's going on in my life. And, I need to take a couple of hours, and knowing that we're still going to get the job done. Consumers, customers are not going to suffer. And there's a lot of skill sets that have to come together. But more importantly, there has to be this acceptance and support and openness and camaraderie now more than ever before.
It's the word that comes to mind as you're saying that is trust, right? So building trust.
Yeah,
at the end of the day, right? If we trust the people that we work with, and we are all focused on that why, right? The mission, the passion, then we'll get it done. But it's interesting because how we brought our team and worked with them and brought them together to gain trust and build trust is different today than it was 4 months ago.
Yeah.
What are you and your team doing to build that trust? What types of things are you as your leader, but then also the leaders above? How are you continuing to do that virtually?
So, there's a lot of ability to connect with one another, even though we're separated, and we make a point of doing that. I mean, from a leadership perspective, every Tuesday, and boy, do I look forward to Tuesdays, we do our Zoom calls with Kristen's leadership team, those direct reports of hers, and we share what we're working on, we share what we need from one another, we share challenges, and we share aspirations. And I think every person on that Zoom call in that leadership role takes that now a step lower and touches base with their teams. I talk to members of my teams every day. Don't try to make it, too formal all of the time, although we do have some formal connections that we schedule. But, I talk to them every day, even if it's a quick check-in. And I think checking in right now, personally and professionally is very, very critical. I mean, you just don't know you can't see them all the time. So you just don't know what they're experiencing and going through. So, I kind of make it a point to, number one, check in. Do you have a clear vision for what you want to accomplish today? Are you excited? What are your challenges? Do you have all the tools and resources and support you need to be successful? And I think more than ever, it's about short-term goals, leading to this overall vision that when the curtain is lifted and we start working back into some sense of what we were like before, although I think we'll never go back to 100% that way, being able to maintain this connection is super critical.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And it's not just about the connection with our own team members, but it's also about the connection with the people that, for people who are in sales, right? You still have to stay connected to your clients, or for us, it's donors, right? And supporters and volunteers and teachers. We still have to stay connected to them. And so I think, and that's where probably you come in, right? Corporate communications and government officials, they still need to hear what's happening, how you're doing it, how you can support them. And so talk a little bit about that external part.
Oh, absolutely. So by nature and kind of really what informs Hotwire's business model is this high touch concierge level of approach to the journey of onboarding and maintaining a customer through very lengthy contracts. And so whether they're residential, commercial, hospitality, or in my case, in the government sector, we've always been, that's in our DNA. We communicate when we've innovated some great tools to actually be able to keep this alive, but we communicate with our customers constantly. Take storm season, for instance. They know what we're doing. They know how we're preparing our teams, our facilities, how we're monitoring. They know that we'll be communicating very proactively to them and not needing them to call into us. We're going to know if they don't have service or are having service troubles. They don't need to wait for, to call into a call center, for instance. So that's kind of been in our DNA anyway. So now we're finding really cool ways to do it, Lori. I mean, not only with the Zooms and the go-to meetings and all of those things, but Hotwire has worked with a company to innovate an augmented reality way to take really highly trained technical folks and get them through a camera, like on any device, whether it's on your phone or your iPad or your computer, connect them with the customer in the home and the devices. And we're seeing that we can do everything from home installations to a little bit of troubleshooting to educating them about the products and services. I mean, just the other day, one of our techs walked somebody who was, over the age of 82 through setting up her mesh network so that in her new area of the house where she's dedicated to stay in touch with friends, and she has like a little business on the side, she was able to set up her whole Wi-Fi mesh network.
Was that my mother? But like my mother.
There's so many reasons why people aren't comfortable with having people in their homes right now. And so, we've had to maintain the level of communication and contact with our customers in some way, because that's our pledge and our promise. And that's kind of what sets us apart. So rolling this out a few weeks early, this very innovative customer experience tool, has been really helpful. But it's things like that are going to last, I think, long after COVID has passed.
Yeah, I so agree. I happen to have the fortune to also have to do government relations and all of those things. And so, but it's interesting because some of that, it's so different. I mean, it's different, but it's not. So we still have to tell the government officials and elected officials, right, and their representatives our story and what we can provide, right, to help their citizens or residents of their cities or counties or whatever it may be. But I think there's also I don't know, it's a unique, I think, part of our, it's a unique sector.
Right.
So how you work with them may be different than how you work with your customers. Talk a little bit about that, because for some of us in that world, right, I think it's a little bit different, a different skill set.
Sure. And I think because our local governments and municipality leaders have so much going on right now that we've kind of taken the stance, again, of very proactive communication. So we're taking a lot, again, using those creative skills, we're taking a lot of pictures and drone shots and footage and kind of as we complete an outside plant project in the way of connecting a city, we'll be turning those visual, demonstrative, proof of performance assets over to them so that they can kind of see the work that was done that day. We have frequent meetings. I mean, just today, as I'm doing this interview, the City of Plantation IT team is coming into the Hotwire Technology Center, where we've allowed them to now see their network that we're preparing for them, all connected and lit up and tested, and they'll get eyes on it before we actually pull it apart and install it into the city. That way it saves them from having to drive from location to location to location. And then, just being able to pivot and to say, hey, how can we do this differently to accommodate a whole new set of needs and time constraints has been kind of a challenge that we've accepted and embraced. Kristen has this saying that, this isn't about survival, this is about thriving. This is about not just getting through today, but taking this opportunity to innovate and do things better and come out of this changed and better and, improved than we were before.
Yeah, and I totally agree with her. Absolutely. I think this has been such an opportunity for our organization, even for nonprofits. But, Junior Achievement, I think, people knew about us and they knew what we did. But I think being able to show the value that we can bring during this time when teachers and educators and parents, right, are trying to educate their children, bringing those resources to them, it's like, wow, we didn't know you could do this, right? And so it's an opportunity to, I think, also kind of brag and show off a little bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you and I were talking offline about pivoting and pivotal moments. I mean, this whole thing has created that opportunity for us in such a real way to be better us, to be better me anyway. I'm certain that I'm learning and improving my own self and my approach to leadership and communication through this whole thing. And, you have to look at everything, glass half empty, glass half full kind of scenario, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I love, there's an author, his name is Mark Miller, and he is the VP of Leadership Development at Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
So he's got a whole series of books, and he talks about in one of the books, about optimism, and he talks about the glass being half full. But to him, he says the glass is full always, because it may only have liquid halfway up, but the rest is filled with air. And so he looks at the glass as full, right? And so I love that. And you talked a little bit about just now about challenges and growth, and I put them together because I think sometimes when we go through the challenges is that's right, a time when we may see our biggest growth. But I also want to hear, as a leader and as a woman leader, what is it you do to continually grow your skills, grow your mindset, all of that? So important.
Boy, I'll tell you what, I have to give a nod to the leadership of Kristen Johnson and some of my coworkers, Mandy Esposito, Maria Tijerino, Teresa Fletcher, Tammy Throm. I mean, these women that I'm with, for the first time in a very long time in my career, I'm surrounded by people who are experiencing pivotal moments at the same time as me. And, I've started doing things, Lori, that I would have never imagined. And just sharing with my girlfriend Lily last night, she kind of thought this was an amazing thing. But I mean, I've even taken online courses to learn to meditate. I mean, it's about being able to deal not only with what you're going through, but being able to find a way to separate so that you can be 100% fully present and supportive of the people that you're leading who are going through emotional challenges, themselves right now, whether it's a learning curve or etc. But I think as women, I think we share one thing in common, and that is our constant quest to learn and to improve, whether it's ourselves or the situation around us. So I've taken a lot of time, less of a commute to work, not too many meetings that I have to drive through over a very large footprint. And I've kind of been blessed to have that time back, even if it's temporary. And I've been using it to take online courses in a variety of things. Meditation for one. I'm getting Blueprint certified for social media, which is a huge undertaking. If you ever, it's like 70 plus hours at least of education. I'm learning to improve my cooking skills. I've always enjoyed that, and it's always been a stress reliever. But boy, I'm taking it to the next level now.
I love this. I love it, love it, love it. And I think, first of all, by the way, I just have to throw a plug out there, but if you're into the meditation, look up Susie Levan.
Okay.
And she has been a long time life coach, meditation guru, all kinds of things around that. And she's really, really had some really easy things we can do because, and she says, don't try to shut your brain down because you can't. Right. So, that was my argument. I was like, I can't shut my brain down because you don't have to.
Yeah.
Right. So look her up. She's amazing. But I love that. I want to touch on one last thing. We talk so much, and all of your teammates that I heard you mention all sound like female names. And so lots of women in your circle of influence, whether in the company or outside of the company. You also lit up earlier when you talked about when you were working with the girls, right? And helping them to learn the consequences and the responsibilities of having a family and having children. Talk a little bit about that, and in the sense from giving back to the community. It sounds like girls and teaching young people about how to be successful kind of sounds like a passion of yours.
It sure is. I mean, I think, I've always been pretty community active, no matter where I lived. And it just is I really embrace this idea of home and place. I mean, I really embrace it, like sometimes a little too much, but I love being a part of it. And I think that it's almost the necessary foundation to do what I do effectively, to be able to be part of the conversation that's making sure constantly that at work you're reflecting and respecting what's going on in your community, I think is really important. I always tell people that if it weren't for money and other ambitions when I was younger, my real passion at the end of the day is probably teaching and mentoring. And I even worked through various churches until very recently, till my move to East Fort Lauderdale, to teach catechism and CCD and just in general hygiene and things like that. To kids, to young kids. I love any organization that is taking a vulnerable group in our society, and trying to make sure that they have the support and the opportunity that they need. And, whether it's the elderly or unfortunately in a lot of our cases, it's kids that are either, separated from us because of this great digital divide, which is another passion that I share with Kristen about bridging. And she's even started a foundation to work on that. I mean, whether it's getting them the right educational opportunities or just having someone be there for them. I mean, I hear a lot of stories about young ladies that are aging out of the foster care system and really don't feel that they have a sense of direction of how to do this life thing on their own, and being able to get in front of them and show them that, they, despite an education level and despite the past, that they have a future, and to play a role in helping them see that, recognize that, and move towards it. That's the stuff you get up.
Well, have I got opportunities for you? And so, no, seriously, I mean, for you as well as others. I mean, now we're doing it virtually, but bringing people like you to mentor and inspire and teach our young people, and 75% of the ones we serve come from low-income families, right? And so when you talk about digital divide for JA, it's not just the digital divide, because okay, we can have a computer, then right, what other life skills?
Absolutely.
So we talk about the financial literacy divide, right? We talk about the career readiness and career skills divide, because our young people coming from those zip codes and those communities, right, are not gaining the knowledge, the very basic knowledge that they need to manage their money, to earn money, right? And so we can give them computers and we can give them the digital piece, which we do. And we use the digital tools to teach them the financial literacy and the work skills, right? But we've got to bring all of that together for them to be able to get through times like these in the future. And so I love that. And I really am going to be coming out to you to hopefully get you to share.
I apologize. It seems like a fire alarm.
Oh, is that what that is? Okay. So you have had some amazing ingredients. I'm just going to read a few of them back. Staying connected, right, to your. Is that your fire alarm?
Yeah. It seems like a test in the building. I'll put it on mute and you can read your ingredients.
Okay, great. So taking a risk, and a chance, right? And pivoting when that happens, finding your core skills and then creating your pathway around those skills, telling the story, passion, but using your passion and using your skills to find your why, right? The solutions for you is providing solutions. I love that. Don't beat yourself up. I love that one, because as women, I think we do it all too often. Collaboration, right? And bringing all those strengths of the team together, looking at people as a whole. And I love that. Relying on others and trusting them and respecting them to have your back and you having their back. Having mentors and being a mentor, I think so important. You talked about customer service, not only from a company perspective, but also you, right? Making sure that you're serving, embracing the challenge. And of course, I love your constant wanting to grow and improve and be a better person and better leader. And then of course, giving back to the community. But I love this line that you said was not just giving back to the community, but respecting the community and really understanding what they need for us to give back. And I love that, because so often we just go out and do and we don't listen, right, and learn what they need. So with all of those ingredients, it's an amazing recipe. But now that you're doing some more cooking, there's always one main ingredient. What is your main ingredient to success?
I would have to say it's been flexibility. It's that understanding what is at your core and what you can bring to the table, always willing to learn and accept new challenges and going where the need is. In 25 years at cable, I've held so many positions I can't even count. The good thing is that I've learned the business, from all different ends, and that's just cable. I mean, even now as we venture into 2021, I have a few challenges that are being presented to me that I'm probably going to undertake shortly. And, being able to be flexible has just really benefited me my entire career.
Yeah. And certainly being flexible and open, right, has also led you to new things, right? So being able to receive that, I love that. And I just want to say thank you. We've never had the chance. I know we've met and I've seen you through Alliance meetings and I know you're on the Winterfest board and a couple of other things, but we've never truly had the chance to have this kind of a conversation. And I think that's what I truly love about doing this podcast and video show is that I get to meet some really, truly amazing people. And I've got to tell you, you are one amazing woman. And I'm so glad that you took the time to be with me, to share with us. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you very much. And I have a little advantage on you. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I have a little advantage because I've been able to watch you from afar in my community endeavors and learn about you. So this has been a true pleasure. When Maxine, I was just really amazed. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And I know we're gonna work on something together. I know it because you're too amazing for me not to. So thanks for being with us, and thanks everyone for watching this episode of JA's Recipe for Success. Look forward to seeing you again in my kitchen. So let's get cooking.